Allegedly, one of the most powerful men in Black Hollywood, a billionaire mogul hailed as a beacon of faith, family, and Black storytelling, is now at the center of a $260 million scandal that could shake the very foundation of his empire. Actor Derek Dixon has come forward with explosive claims, accusations of sexual assault, coercion, and betrayal that, if true, would paint a deeply disturbing picture of abuse behind the scenes at Tyler Perry Studios. This isn't just another Hollywood lawsuit. This is a war of reputations, secrets, and silence. And today, we're going all the way in. Before we go any further, I want to issue a strong trigger warning. This episode discusses alleged incidents of sexual assault, coercion, workplace harassment, and emotional trauma. These are deeply sensitive topics that may be difficult or distressing for some listeners. If you or someone you love has experienced any form of abuse or violence, please prioritize your mental and emotional well-being. This space is about awareness, accountability, and truth, but your peace and safety come first. If you're new here, welcome to Life Points with Ronda, the podcast where real life meets real talk. And if you've been rocking with me, you already know what to do. Go ahead and like, follow, or subscribe, depending on where you're listening, because we don't shy away from the tough conversations. Make sure you share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, and leave a review if this content resonates with you. For exclusive behind-the-scenes content, deep dive episodes, and unfiltered commentary, join my Patreon at Life Points with Ronda. You can also connect with me across all platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, under Life Points with Ronda, or visit my website, lifepointswithronda.com, for coaching, podcast archives, and more. And if you want to reach out directly, you can always email me at lifepointwithronda@gmail.com. All right, now that we've got that out the way, let's get into it. The pattern of power, silence, and accusation. It's easy to dismiss a lawsuit. It's easy to say, oh, here comes another actor trying to make headlines. But when a $260 million lawsuit hits the public like a lightning bolt, naming Tyler Perry one of the most untouchable figures in Black Hollywood, it becomes more than just a headline. It becomes a pattern, a painful pattern. And if we're going to talk about it, we have to tell the truth. This is not the first time these kinds of allegations have come to light in the entertainment industry, and it won't be the last. From Bill Cosby to R. Kelly, from Russell Simmons to Kevin Spacey, the names change, but the script is disturbingly familiar. A powerful man, a young actor or artist chasing their dream, promises made behind closed doors, silence bought with fear, careers launched, then abruptly ended, and the world often doesn't believe the victims until it's too late. But here's what makes this case different. Tyler Perry is not just a filmmaker. He is a machine, a one-man empire. He built his studio from the ground up. He's donated millions, lifted up the culture, and carved out space for Black actors and stories that otherwise wouldn't exist. He's been a symbol of spiritual redemption and second chances, which is exactly why these allegations cut so deep. Actor Derek Dixon, best known for his role as Dale on The Oval, didn't just accuse Perry of sexual misconduct. He accused him of creating a culture of coercion. In the 30-page complaint filed in Los Angeles, Dixon laid it all out, allegedly, from inappropriate touching to sexually explicit text messages, to being told that his career advancement depended on complying with Tyler Perry's sexual advances. He paints a disturbing portrait, a powerful man allegedly dangling opportunity like bait and punishing those who refuse the hook. And while Perry's legal team has called these claims completely fabricated and a money grab, the details in the lawsuit are graphic, disturbing, and specific. Dixon isn't just making accusations. He's recounting events with dates, locations, messages, and alleged retaliation. So here's the real question that keeps coming up in the culture. Why does this keep happening? Why do so many people in positions of power allegedly abuse that power behind the veil of fame, philanthropy, and faith? It's not just about Tyler Perry. It's about the machine that protects men like him. It's about the silence that victims are forced to keep. It's about the fear of losing it all, the role, the career, the reputation, if you speak up. And today, Derek Dixon is choosing to speak, loudly, legally, and with full detail. The lawsuit breakdown, what Derek Dixon is alleging. Let's walk through what's actually being claimed, because this isn't vague. Derek Dixon is not being subtle. He laid it all out in legal paperwork filed on June 13, 2025, in Los Angeles Superior Court. The suit is 30 pages long and seeks $260 million in damages. That number alone tells you this isn't just about discomfort, it's about destruction. Dixon is saying his mental, emotional, and professional life were ruined. Here's how the timeline allegedly plays out. 2019, the beginning. Dixon says he met Tyler Perry at an industry event. Soon after, Perry allegedly reached out with an offer for him to join the cast of Ruthless. Now, if you've been watching Perry's shows, you know Ruthless is one of the more intense dramas on BET+. Dixon describes feeling honored, and like most rising actors, eager for the opportunity. But that's when things took a turn. According to the suit, Perry allegedly invited Dixon to stay at his home during production. While that might seem generous or even standard in Hollywood circles, it was allegedly during one of these stays that Perry crossed a line. Dixon claims that in January 2020, Perry entered his guest room at night and touched him inappropriately, without consent. That was the first alleged assault. 2020 to 2021, the escalation. From there, the allegations only deepen. Dixon says he began receiving sexually explicit text messages, promises of greater creative control, and alleged conversations where Perry dangled the idea of his own spin-off series. If he was willing to be more obedient, let's sit with that. Obedient. That's the word Dixon says was used to describe what was expected of him. This wasn't about acting anymore. According to the lawsuit, it became psychological manipulation. Dixon alleges that he was being tested, offered opportunity as reward for compliance. And when he didn't comply, the repercussions followed. In June of 2021, another alleged incident occurred, described as forcible groping. This, too, allegedly took place in Perry's residence. Dixon says this was a breaking point, but he didn't go public. Not yet. Like many victims, he stayed quiet and tried to survive in silence. The fallout, retaliation, and breakdown. Fast forward to mid-2024, Dixon filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. That's when things allegedly escalated again. Dixon claims he was blackballed, removed from writing opportunities, and ultimately forced off of the Oval, losing income, industry respect, and peace of mind. He says his mental health collapsed. In the lawsuit, he described suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, depression, and anxiety. His career stalled, his opportunities dried up, and he allegedly received legal threats, urging him to stay quiet or take a payout. And now, with this lawsuit, Dixon says, no more. He's accusing Tyler Perry and his studios of sexual battery, workplace harassment, gender-based violence, retaliation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of labor and civil rights laws. Let's be clear, Tyler Perry's legal team has denied everything. His lawyer, Matthew Boyd, called the suit a scam and said the claims will be easily disproven. But Dixon's suit alleges there are receipts, messages, emails, and timelines that support his claims. Whether this goes to trial or gets settled out of court, this lawsuit is now a matter of public record. The damage is already done, reputationally speaking, whether or not Perry is found liable. And this is where the court of public opinion steps in. Hollywood's history of protecting power, especially when it's wrapped in Black excellence. We've got to be real about something here. Hollywood doesn't just protect power, it manufactures it. It protects it with NDAs, PR firms, hush money, and reputation management machines that make sure the truth stays buried. And when that power is dressed up in Black excellence, when it's cloaked in Christian values, inspirational speeches, and a rags-to-riches storyline, it becomes almost untouchable. That's what makes this case so complicated. Tyler Perry isn't just a celebrity, he's a cultural institution. For millions of Black people, he represents hope. He came from nothing. He created a studio from scratch. He made his way through the back door and then built his own damn house. Literally and figuratively, he has fed families, employed thousands of Black actors, and donated millions to community causes. He's helped pay people's rent during COVID. He even built homes for Meghan and Harry during their exile from the royal family. But here's the hard pill. Benevolence does not cancel out harm. Too many times we've seen the world rally behind powerful black men accused of misconduct, quick to shout conspiracy, jealousy, or they're just trying to take another strong black man down. And to be fair, sometimes that is true. We've seen the media weaponized against us. We've seen smear campaigns. We've seen false accusations destroy careers. But the danger lies in reflexively defending someone just because of who they are to the culture, while ignoring the humanity of the person making the claim. Black men can be brilliant and broken. They can be philanthropic and predatory. They can be healers in the public eye and harmers behind closed doors. And the sad truth is, black victims get overlooked the most. We rarely hear their stories taken seriously. Male victims, even less. A black man accusing another black man of sexual violence? The entire conversation becomes even more taboo. It's swept under the rug with whispers and side eyes. Because we're conditioned not to question those we put on pedestals, especially if they've helped us, moved us, or inspired us. But what happens when inspiration is used as insulation? What happens when the community's trust becomes a shield for abuse? What happens when a survivor finally speaks and we're too busy defending the accused to even listen? This isn't about dragging Tyler Perry. This is about holding space for the possibility that power and harm can coexist. That unchecked influence, no matter how well-meaning it started, can turn into manipulation, control, and silence. We've seen this with spiritual leaders, pastors, moguls, and activists. And now we're seeing it in a lawsuit that, win or lose, is pulling back the curtain on the darker side of making it. The receipts, the public, and the silence machine. Let's talk about the alleged receipts, because Derek Dixon isn't just making claims out of thin air. According to the lawsuit, he has dates, locations, conversations, and text messages to back up his story. Allegedly, there are sexually explicit texts from Tyler Perry, sent in between filming, and even during moments when Dixon thought he was being mentored, when he thought his hard work was finally paying off. Instead, he says those opportunities came with a price. The price? His dignity, his boundaries, his safety. Dixon says he was offered raises, more screen time, and even his own spin-off series. But that all came with strings. Allegedly, when he refused to comply with certain expectations behind the scenes, those offers disappeared like smoke. Suddenly, he says, doors that were wide open slammed shut. He was written off, kept out of writing rooms, ghosted, and eventually pushed off the set altogether. What's more chilling is that Dixon says he was threatened legally, warned not to speak out, allegedly pressured to take settlements or accept new deals in exchange for silence. This, he says, is why he waited until 2024 to contact the EEOC. He was trying to survive emotionally, professionally, spiritually. But here's what's even louder than the lawsuit: the silence around it. Let's be honest. If this lawsuit had involved a white Hollywood figure, let's say Harvey Weinstein or James Franco, it would be everywhere. Headlines, think pieces, celebrities weighing in, victim support campaigns. But this story has barely made a ripple. Why? Because Tyler Perry is powerful, because Black Hollywood is tight, because platforms like BET, OWN, and even major networks have built entire ecosystems around his content. And let's keep it a buck. A lot of folks are scared to touch this story. They're waiting to see where the wind blows. Nobody wants to be the first one to say, what if it's true? And that's how the silence machine works. It's not always about shouting someone down. Sometimes it's just about ignoring the story until it fades, letting it die in the algorithm, letting public fatigue bury it under new headlines. But silence is a weapon. And when wielded by billion-dollar brands, it becomes a form of psychological warfare, telling the victim that their pain isn't worth disrupting the status quo. And what about the public? So far, social media is split. Some people are saying it smells like a cash grab. Others are asking, why now? But a growing number are leaning in, reading the suit, watching Derek Dixon's previous interviews, looking back at behind-the-scenes footage. And what they're finding? Are cracks in the image of the man we once thought was invincible? But let's be clear, this is not about cancellation. This is about conversation. This is about what happens when you peel back the layers of power and find pain underneath. The dark side of ownership, when the boss becomes the predator. We always talk about Black ownership like it's the holy grail, and in many ways, it is. We cheer when we see someone break barriers, buy land, open studios, and create opportunities for our people. Tyler Perry did all of that. He didn't just rent a space in Hollywood. He built a whole kingdom on 330 acres of land in Atlanta. The first Black man in history to own a major film studio outright. We've celebrated him, and rightfully so. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Ownership doesn't automatically equal integrity, and power in the hands of someone who isn't held accountable can be just as dangerous, even if that person looks like us. When we say we need our own, we're not just talking about land and platforms. We're talking about safe spaces, places where Black artists, especially vulnerable ones, newcomers, queer actors, survivors, don't have to trade silence for success. Because what happens when the gatekeeper becomes the predator? What happens when the dream space becomes a trap? That's what Derek Dixon is describing in this lawsuit. He says he was brought into a space that was supposed to be Black-owned, Black-led, and Black-protected. Instead, he claims it became a space of manipulation, where his boundaries were tested under the guise of mentorship and opportunity. And because Tyler Perry owns the studio, the productions, and the power, Dixon alleges there was no HR to call, no oversight to report to, no one above Perry to intervene. Let's be honest, when the person at the top is the alleged abuser, there is nowhere else to go. It becomes a closed loop, a fortress. You can't report your boss to your boss. And this is the dark side of so many of our institutions, especially in entertainment and spirituality. Whether it's a megachurch or a production set, when one person controls the message, the money, and the movement, it's easy to weaponize that control. Promises become pressure. Kindness becomes currency. Let me help you turns into you owe me. And for those on the receiving end, it can feel like a slow, silent kind of suffocation. We cannot continue to celebrate Black ownership without also holding it accountable. You can't tell people to build their own table and then poison the food. You can't tell actors to just get in the room if that room is locked from the inside. And we cannot keep excusing toxicity just because the face behind it wears a cross, a smile, and a legacy of charity. Yes, we want Black moguls. Yes, we want power in our own hands, but not if it costs people their voice, not if it costs them their peace, not if we're going to turn away and say, well, at least he helped somebody. Because helping somebody does not excuse hurting somebody else. And maybe that's the scariest part of this whole case. Because if it's true, if even a fraction of these allegations are true, then it means that one of the most celebrated kings of Black media may have built his kingdom with the bricks of silence, coercion, and exploitation. And if that doesn't make us take a hard look at the way we define success, I don't know what will. Final reflections. When men speak out against power. In a world that constantly prioritizes image, reputation, and the bottom line, one of the most courageous things anyone can do, regardless of race, gender, or background, is to speak out against abuse. And that's what Derek Dixon says he's doing. Whether or not this lawsuit ends in a win, Derek's allegations have pulled back the curtain on something deeper. The toxic culture of power without oversight, where the lines between mentorship and manipulation get blurred and silence becomes the price of admission for survival in the entertainment industry. Because no matter who the victim is, Black, white, male, female, or non-binary, the pattern remains chillingly familiar. A powerful figure, promises whispered behind closed doors, a gatekeeper offering access in exchange for submission, and a chilling aftermath where speaking up means risking everything. Derek Dixon may not represent a community that's typically silenced in conversations about abuse, but that doesn't make his voice any less worthy of being heard. If anything, it reminds us that abuse is not a race issue, it's a power issue. And the entertainment industry, like so many others, has a long, dark history of using its power to silence and discredit victims, no matter their background. We have to remember, just because someone's story makes us uncomfortable doesn't mean it isn't true. And just because the accused has done good in the world doesn't mean they're incapable of doing harm. This isn't about cancel culture. This is about culture correction. Because what's the point of ownership, of representation, of changing the system, if we're still letting the same old abuses hide behind new faces and newer platforms? Derek Dixon may never act again. He may be called a liar. He may be dragged in the press. But if his story is true, and if even one more person finds the strength to speak up because he did, then something bigger is happening here. A shift, a reckoning, a refusal to stay silent just because someone is powerful. And maybe that's where real healing begins. When the fear of losing your dream is no longer greater than the pain of keeping your truth locked inside. If this episode moved you, made you think, or opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment your thoughts. And most importantly, follow Life Points with Ronda across YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're having the conversations they don't want us to have. For the full uncut reading of Derek Dixon's $260 million lawsuit against Tyler Perry, head to my Patreon right now at patreon.com/lifepointswithronda. And remember, whether you believe the accuser or not, silence never protected the truth. This has been Life Points with Ronda, and as always, I see you, I honor you, and I'll meet you back here for the next one.